Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. All right, so today's discussion is titled The Silence of the Swastika. So, we're talking about a documentary that was, I think, originally released in Hindi, if I'm correct. And
Yes.
now there's a new version of the same in English. And obviously, it's been made by A. Aaj Ki Taza Khabar and Kona. And we have Anuj Bhardwaj from Aaj Ki Taza Khabar and Nikunj from
Namaste.
Kona. Welcome, boys.
Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you.
All right, so just to give everyone a brief background as to why I am discussing this subject again. Now, if you guys are regulars on the Cārvāka podcast, you might recall Nikunj and Pushpita had come a while ago, and we had a discussion on the swastika. Now, the reason I'm doing this again is that since that time has passed, a lot of developments have happened, and the issue of swastika. And if you are in India, अगर आप इंडिया में बैठे हो तो आपको लग रहा होगा कि कुशल भाई स्वास्तिका इशू भी होता है, हमें पता नहीं था। हम तो हमारी गाड़ियों पे लगाते हैं, हम हमारे घर के बाहर लगाते हैं, हमारे मंदिरों में होता है, हम हर जगह जहाँ देखते हैं फैक्ट्री पे लगाते हैं। बट जिसको बोलते हैं कि कई बार इंडिया के हिंदू कुएं के मेंढक के जैसे हो जाते हैं कि उनको लगता है कि सिर्फ वही है और कोई मैटर नहीं करता। एंड हिंदू कम्युनिटी इज ग्लोबल, हिंदू कम्युनिटी हैज इश्यूज दैट आर बियॉन्ड India, and because the way Hinduism is structured in terms of demography and placement, 95% of global Hindus live in India. So the Indian Hindus are always secure because they're primarily in one area and they kind of dominate that area. But the other 5% have real issues. And these documentaries, these discussions, and primarily this podcast that I started, the vision of this podcast was not about Indian Hindus or Indians. It was about the global diaspora, which is why I try to have discussions in mostly in English, so that I don't skip out many other Hindus across the globe who may not speak in Hindi, which is one of the biggest reasons मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि मैं हमेशा अंग्रेजी में discussions करूँ. Point number one. And this is a very specific issue. So maybe Nikunj, we can talk about the developments after the podcast first, and then Anuj can also come in and we can discuss the documentary itself. So, Nikunj, you can lay down what has happened since our last discussion, because at last time you were saying there were bills coming up, right? If I remember correctly. So, what has happened since then now?
Yeah. Before we get to that, I just want to, first of all, thank you for having us. But most people don't realize that, we are thinking that हम भारत में बैठ के, swastika तो safe है, क्या problem है? United Nations. So the United Nations at one point was contemplating on declaring swastika a symbol of hate and banning the symbol. ठीक है? So United Nations तक चला गया था issue. So it's just an India में भारत का issue है. It's a global issue. So we have to be very mindful. So now let's talk about what has happened since we last spoke. So when we were speaking last time, we were talking about the fact that bills are coming up. All these major bill has come up in California, and the bill basically attempts to say that the swastika is a symbol of hate, and the display of it should be banned. Now, there has been some language change in that bill to say that no, they have included the word Hakenkreuz or the hooked cross in there. But the problem with that bill still remains is that it distinguishes between the good swastika and the bad swastika. So there is such a thing that bhai, aisa good swastika that is for Hindu, Buddhists, and Jains, and then the Nazi swastika,
Just
which
in
is
a tongue-in-cheek manner, Nikunj. Now you sound like Imran Khan.
Oh, baapre.
There's a good Taliban and a bad Taliban.
Exactly. No, that's the whole point. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that example because that is the exact example that we have in our petition. We had mentioned that is there a good Taliban or a bad Taliban? There is no such thing. There's only Taliban. So we're the opposite side of this, saying, there is no good swastika and a bad swastika. So that's the problem that we currently see in the bill. We are not against the spirit, right? We want to condemn symbols of hate, but leave swastika alone. And the second thing is in the bill, what they did was they added the words Nazi swastika. That is the official emblem of the Nazi party, which is also wrong because the Nazis never called their emblem Nazi swastika. There was no such thing. It was just Hakenkreuz. So our team, Kona, the organization, plus 130 130 organizations, we all got together and we are now saying, look, we need the language change. And so let's see what happens. It has passed the Senate Appropriations Committee. It passed the House or the Assembly, what they call, and then it is now in the Senate Appropriations Committee. It passed that vote also. So unfortunately, we have done a lot of work on the ground. We have talked to many different lawmakers, but they empathize with what we're saying, but they don't want to change. So we will continue the fight all the way until we can make the change happen.
So let me play the devil's advocate here. So the person playing the devil's advocate would come back to you and say, yes, the Nazis did not call it the swastika. It's because the Nazis spoke in German.
Correct.
Now, with the natural translation, when it went out into the mainstream public, was automatically swastika, because that was the English word they used. All they did was just call it the swastika in the English translation. But whenever they speak in German, they always call it the Hakenkreuz.
Correct.
That's what they would say. So what do you say to that?
So two things. Number one is this was incorrectly translated, and we have already a lot of information we have already provided to them. They had never used the word. If we're going to condemn a particular regime, for example, we use the word Third Reich. Okay, so the Reich is a word, that's a German word. So similarly, we in the US, we can use the same word. We don't have to use Hakenkreuz. We can say Nazi emblem. We can say hooked cross. So we don't have to use the German word per se. You can use English words, but swastika is not an English word. Second thing is that in the US or in the Western world, they can distinguish between the burning cross and the Christian cross, the sacred cross. So we are giving that example, saying if you can distinguish between these two, you can certainly say, hey, this is the Nazi emblem, and this is nothing to do with swastika. Because it's not that we gave up the usage of swastika. Even in America or the Western world, Hindus and Buddhists and Jains have continued to use it. It's just that, this 100 years of propaganda has created this massive issue for us in the West, certain parts of the West. People realize that, but they don't want to they don't want to come with reconcile with the truth. And that is the concern that we have, that at some point you have to reconcile with the truth and say, you know what they're saying is correct. Historically, there has been a mistake. So let's change that mistake. We are not saying that get rid of everything, but dire everything changes. The change starts here. The problem with California is it's a big state. Okay? If California passes this bill, our concern is other states will use a similar language to pass similar bills. In New Jersey, there was an attempt to also use the word Nazi swastika, but we work with the assembly here to get rid of the whole word itself. And they only use something called Nazi symbol of hate. So keeping it very, very generic is what we are asking them. So three things we're asking them. Number one, get rid of swastika altogether and replace it with Nazi symbol of hate, whatever. Second thing is swastika should only be used when it comes to looking at Hindu, Buddhist, Jain symbols. And third is if you can't get rid of the Nazi word Nazi swastika because of some legal issues, add the words incorrectly known as right before Nazi swastika. So it clarifies the fact that this symbol is incorrectly known as Nazi swastika. That's our demand.
Yeah, what is fascinating is that you have to call Vipassana mindfulness because it's woo.
Yeah.
You have to call Yoga Nidra lucid dreaming because Yoga Nidra sounds woo. But you have to call it swastika and not Hakenkreuz or the Nazi symbol of hate. I love how it all falls out in the West. It's so convenient, right? Whatever is problematic, let's use the source word. Whatever is good, hey, but come on, my people are not going to accept something good from the pagan. Let's change the word and let's completely uproot it. Isn't it fascinating, Nikunj?
Yeah. Same thing with pranayama.
Yeah.
Rhythmic breathing.
Did you see that? Did you see that article from what was that? By the way, it's such a disappointment because I used to love this journal, Scientific American. I used to love the Scientific American before it went batshit woke, and they had come up with this article on pranayam. And I was like, इतना बड़ा पैराग्राफ लिख दिया, सिर्फ प्राणायाम बोल देता था, एक वर्ड टाइप करना था, इतनी सारे वर्ड्स टाइप करने की तूने इतनी दिक्कत की, उंगलियों को तूने इतना you just gave your fingers such a nice exercise. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So anyway, so now let's go to Anuj. Anuj, ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री है, पहले obviously आप लोगों ने हिंदी में बनाई थी और अभी अंग्रेजी में किया. So why? And I tried to see both. तो उसमें कंटेंट में भी डिफरेंस है. So what was the logic behind it? And पहली बात, ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाने का आइडिया कहाँ से आया?
So, shall I speak in Hindi or English?
जिसमें बोलना है बोलो.
ओके सो जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाने का आइडिया था वो बेसिकली हम लोग वाइल यूजिंग ट्विटर आई सॉ ट्विटर थ्रेड जिसमें एक हैंडल हुआ करता था ट्रू इंडोलॉजी के नाम से.
Mhm.
तो he used he made this expose. और अदरवाइज एनसीईआरटी की किताबों में तो हमने यही पढ़ा था कि दैट हिटलर यूज्ड स्वास्तिका ऑलवेज. So he used that word Haken Christ for the first time, and I was so surprised at the same time, uh, kind of heartbroken यार कि साला क्या तुमने एक सिंबल का बना दिया है. और उससे पहले का जो एक नॉर्मल इंडियन माइंडसेट में एक नॉर्मल एजुकेशन के थ्रू जा सकता था वही हमारे दिमाग में था. सो इट क्रिएटेड अ काइंड ऑफ हिस्टेरिया इनसाइड माय माइंड. एंड देन लास्ट ईयर थ्रू आवर चैनल AKTK वी announced, because we were making those 10 minutes videos, and I was kind of bored. So I thought of doing something new, and we announced that we are going to make some documentary films. And for the start we are going to take this topic because it was the topic which gave me the kick. So we announced this topic last
Did we lose him?
Think we have lost him. He's frozen.
He's frozen. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, he's frozen. I think he's got internet issues. The internet overlords are making sure Anush does not speak on this
Speak.
podcast. Yeah. So so
I'm
while
sorry. I'm
Oh, he's
sorry.
back.
yeah.
My internet is working like Abhijit today. So yeah. So
So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
so
Go ahead.
yeah. So the idea came to my mind through the thread, and in last year June we decided that this is the first topic which we are going to cover. We didn't have any experience because my background is of software engineer, and I do not have any interactions with the camera. So we collected some funds, we bought some equipments, we bought some two cameras, and then we started learning things from the YouTube, that how we are going to place the lightings, how we are going to shoot outside, how the research was okay, that we were doing some research through our videos. So but it was also difficult because minute video of some facts going here and there. But in a if you're announcing a documentary, you have to be very accurate with the facts, and you also have to be very accurate with the language script. So that part also was difficult. But yeah, this was how we selected this topic through a Twitter thread, of course. And then when I started doing the research on this topic, uh, it was clear that this topic was really necessary to come with. So this was how we choose this topic.
नहीं
And the
मगर
sec
फिर ये मेरा
huh.
प्रश्न था कि फिर अंग्रेजी में बनाने का ख्याल बाद में आया कि पहले से ही था कि पहले हम
No,
हिंदी
no.
में निकालेंगे और बाद में इंग्लिश में निकालेंगे?
See, to be very honest, I was not sure that मैं इसको बना पाऊंगा अपनी टीम के साथ. Of course, Garvit, me, and the editor Abhishek. We were the three people, and मैं honestly I was not sure that we are going to pull this off. So was to make it in the language I was comfortable with. We started the script writing and everything in Hindi. We made a new channel in in December 2021. We made a new channel, AKTK Documentary, and we released the trailer, we released the intro. So there were approximately 30,000 subscribers through our channels we got on that new channel, and we released the documentary on 30th so within a few days, it gained approximately 8 lakh views in 3 or 4 days in a new channel, on a new channel. So I got to know that people are liking this, and people are getting the message also. And because I was doing some interviews on different channels, so वो clarity दिमाग में आ गई थी कि लोग, people were asking in the comment section also that this message should go in English. So दिमाग में तो आ गया था कि अंग्रेजी में बनाना है, और उसी टाइम डिसाइड भी कर लिया था कि इंग्लिश में बनाना है, पर पता नहीं था कि कैसे बनाना है. बट in in some days, maybe in 15 days, I got a message from Rashmi Samant that the Kohuna president Nikunj wants to talk to you. I told her कि मेरा नंबर आप दे दीजिए. तो उसके बाद within a few days Nikunj contacted, and we are here. After a few months we are here, and the English translation is also, it's good. So this is how it happened.
चलो बहुत बढ़िया बात है. I'm glad you guys have done this effort, because it's very important to put these kinds of things out, and I know people don't like it when I say this, but communicating in English language is as important as communicating in our own languages, because in English is a language of the globe. English is a language which is understood by people outside India, and like I said,
True.
the content creation in India, while it is a very good thing. In fact, I was invited on one of the podcasts here, जब आएगी लोगों को पता चल जाएगा, फॉर एन इंटरव्यू अबाउट द इंडियन कंटेंट लैंडस्केप. और तभी मैं बोल रहा था कि द वन गुड थिंग अबाउट इंडियन कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स इज मोस्ट ऑफ द मेजर कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स इन इंडिया, आई एम नॉट वन ऑफ देम because I am in English, is because they do it in regional languages. Indians don't care. Indians keep creating content in their own languages, and there is a huge market for that. So, but the dark side of that is that none of these people outside India know about them. I may not be, consumer of Kerry Minati personally, but that doesn't change the fact that Kerry Minati is number one. That
Right.
doesn't change the fact. So
Right.
when it comes to content creation, on even on Indian issues, Indian religious issues and stuff like that, it's very important, and I'm glad you guys have done it. First of all, I don't say this because you guys are, I actually like the production quality. So बहुत बढ़िया production quality थी, तो पहली बात उसके लिए मैं आप
Thank
लोगों
you.
को appreciate करना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि the one standard thing about Indian production is that इतनी घटिया टटी किस्म की production होती है कि मतलब मन करता है कि जाके उस आदमी को झंझोर के ऐसे ऐसे करके हिला दें कि तूने बनाई क्यों. अगर नहीं बनाता रहा तो कम काम खराब हो रहा था, अभी तूने बना लिया तो और काम खराब हो गया है. So it's a huge problem with Indian content creation, that it is too over emotional. It has too much of those saas bahu kinds of kind of a thing, and it turns off the global audiences. Let me put it, the global audience is only interested in emotional things when they go and they watch a movie of India. That's when they like the RRRs of the world. So good job done. And I because I watched it last night, because मैं क्या करता हूँ, मैं जब भी कोई पॉडकास्ट कर रहा होता हूँ उसके 16 घंटे 12 घंटे पहले मैं कंटेंट को कंज्यूम करता हूँ उसके. So I actually sat down last night and I watched it आराम से, and I was like, thank goodness it has no emotional drama in it. It is just people talking again and again and again, and 1 point, 2nd point, 3rd point, 4th point, 5th point, 6th point करके. But Nikunj, let's talk about this this bill bit now. So is this problem just in the United States of America, or like I heard of news about something like this going on in Australia too? Well, the one small victory I would say as far as the community is concerned is I think Chandra Arya, the member of parliament from the Liberal Party in Canada. He's the member of parliament from Nepean. मेरे को तो constituency बता रहा हूँ. It's a constituency. I think he's the 3rd time member of parliament for there. So good for him that he has come on the floor of the parliament in Canada and he spoke about this issue. So I think, is he one of the first leaders to actually talk about this issue in detail, Nikunj?
In the Western world, he's the only leader, actually,
Oh, wow.
like that has gone on the floor that I know of. No American politician, of Hindu origin has gone and on the floor of the Senate or the House and talked about this, unfortunately, or at any state level, things like that. There have been some messages, but nothing like going on the floor. So he's the first one, I would say. And he actually used the Kona material, actually, and he really gave it to every single MP in Canada. So that was really awesome that he did. In Canada, there is a bill, same thing. So what is going on is, because of a rise of hate crimes against the Jewish community, all this anti-Semitism going on, there's a global effort by the community to really look at this and try to see if they can pass different types of because it cannot be only in the US, because you see Australia, New Zealand, parts, US, Canada, at least 4 countries are doing this right now. I think there are other countries too, but at least in these 4 countries, there's going on. So again, we want to work with the communities. It's not that we don't want to work with them. It's just that we need to make sure that there is a difference. So in Canada, there is a bill that is being worked on. And I think Chandraji has done a good job presenting the case, and he's going to be working with the other lawmakers to make sure that there is a change in the language. We have had some success. Like I said, in New Jersey, thanks to Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee's efforts, we were able to get rid of the whole swastika word itself and just replace it with Nazi symbol or Nazi emblem of hate, things like that. So there are pockets. In Maryland, we were able to defeat the bill. In New York, we were able to defeat the bill twice because we couldn't agree on the language. So there have been some successes, but it's just we have to keep in mind that California is a big state, and I am pretty sure that things will change after California passes in different locations. So
is
that's
California a lost cause?
There is no lost cause for me. There's never a lost cause until I lose. Meaning,
because
in terms of
even on the caste issue, I think it's California that's coming up with these absurd ideas.
Yes.
It's like California has almost become, from the place that used to be the central focal point of all things amazing, to the place that is to the central focal point of all things batshit crazy.
Yeah, all shit, all things batshit amazing, crazy. Let's put it that way. Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
that's happening there.
California has done a lot of good things.
It has. It is a center of innovation. It was a center of, sort of like a lot of the, I would say, I don't like the word progressive, but a lot of the sort of innovative ideas about how to sustain the world, how to make things better in life, although that's going on. And I think perhaps that's one of the reasons why the climate there right now has become like this, because some people have drank the Kool-Aid, or a lot of people have drank the Kool-Aid about sort of a perverse idea of change. And there's good in them, but what they're doing is they have been hijacked. These ideas have been hijacked by certain elements. In fact, you may have seen the news about caste, that Apple is taking a big step in this whole policy on caste. The Democratic Progressive Party in California passed this thing about caste, like the resolution that they're going to discriminate based on caste. The Asian American Pacific Islander API, one of the bodies there, has been working with group like Equality Labs, which is very anti-Hindu, on caste and casteism and things like that. You're working with people who actually hate the Hindus to say, oh, we're not against the Hindus. We want caste to be for everybody, all people. But yet it's always associated with Hindus and always associated with India. So naturally speaking, there's a bias there against our community, which people need to wake up on. So back to California, yes, you are right. There are a lot of these laws and bills that are coming out that adversely impact the Hindu community. 2 big ones being this swastika issue, and then the caste in California with Cisco, and even just at the state level.
Yeah, but not just the Hindu community, right? Because the swastika is a symbol of the Jainas and the Buddhas also, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like they don't use it.
No,
so what are
exactly.
they doing? Are they just sitting in a corner? They're like, I just dump it.
No. And in fact, in the 130 organizations that we have signed, we have Jains and Sikh, Buddhist organizations. 40% of America's Buddhists live in California. Okay, especially in the southern part of the. So when
what the hell are they doing then?
They are working with us, and
because Buddhists have a nice name in America. They're not casteist.
Yeah.
They give you all those exercises. They give you all those good things, and
they're Zen.
White people like Buddhism.
Yeah,
at least white people should listen to those good ones.
Yes, exactly. So the idea is that we are working with Buddhist groups to make this point, and I think we have made some very strong points. Now it's just more about being adamant. I think unfortunately the lawmakers are being very adamant, and by passing this law, they're ignoring 3 major religions of the world, but also with a significant population in California. So we don't have an issue. We're going to go all the way till this thing is fixed. If we lose, we lose, but at least we lose on the side of dharma. That's not an issue.
So, okay, then maybe this is what we can do. And I guess Anuj can also help you in this way. What are the steps? Okay, look, I have a diaspora audience, I know that. So if I was to ask this, what are the steps the diaspora can take? Tangible steps outside of outraging on social media and being a whiny little whatever. Um, um, what can they do if they are living in the United States of America, if they are living in Canada? Look, let's say I am in India. Forget my location right now, but I am in India. So I'm not a citizen, right? Yeah, I'm not a citizen in Canada. I'm not a citizen in the United States of America. And this, again, like Anuj and I are not going to be affected by this. हम तो इंडिया में बैठे हैं, हमको क्या है, हमारा तो सिंबल है, हम तो हर जगह माथे पे लगा के भी घूमेंगे, कोई कुछ बोलने नहीं वाला है, टी शर्ट बना के घूमेंगे, कोई कुछ बोलने नहीं वाला है हमको. But the point is, y'all are going to be affected. So if there are citizens who are members, who are voters, registered voters in Canada, who are eligible to vote in Canada, or who are permanent residents in Canada and America, or green card holders, H-1B visa holders, whatever, or in Australia, because I know Australia में भी ये bill pass हुआ है, ये तमाशा हुआ है. So what can they do? If that was my question.
So Australia did a good job. The Victorian government actually amended the bill and actually has used a very awesome language. So we have actually given that language to the California lawmakers and said, look, this is what Australia has used. So I think the Victorian government example is a good one. So here are a few things that people can do. Number one is have a proactive conversation with your local lawmaker. So in the US, for example, you have the assemblywoman or man, you have the state senator. You can also have your congressman or congresswoman have conversations with them, set up a meeting and say, I want to talk to you about these issues that are going on specifically around this. They can go to kona.org/swastika and get all the materials that are needed to learn about the issues, learn about swastika, take some actions, number one. Number two is when you have the meeting, again, like you said, don't rant, be very professional and say, we support the efforts to stamp bigotry, to stand against bigotry and prejudice. However, we want to make sure that our sacred symbol is not considered a symbol of hate. And the language should reflect that. Words matter because the police departments and everyone is going to refer to the language that is in the bills. Okay. The third thing is proactively write in the media or in local newspapers about these issues, because the media is the biggest culprit. Even if the law changes someplace, they keep using the word swastika, swastika, swastika with Hitler. And it was 100 years ago that the media was the one who actually, ye mudde ko bahut uchala tha. 100 years ago, New York Times had the first article on this issue. So the point is, let's reach out to proactive media. The third thing is educate yourself, because even I'll admit, before June of 2020, as Anuj mentioned, when you're growing up in India, but before growing up in the US, before June of 2020, even I was under the impression that maybe Hitler used swastika, right? But do the research and trust the people who have done the research to say, there is no such thing as Nazi swastika. There is no such thing as Nazi swastika versus a Hindu swastika. There's only swastika. So we have to trust ourselves and trust the community. And the third and then final point is that support the organizations that are fighting this thing. So we encourage you to support Kona. We encourage you to support other organizations that are fighting the fight and say, hey, we are behind you. So when people are behind us, then we can go forward and say, we are representing all these organizations and all these groups and all these people who want a change to happen.
Yep, I agree with you. So, अभी अनुज प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे साइड में भी ऐसे लोग चमन हैं. अभी जैसे अगर मैं किसी को आके बताऊं कि जो स्वस्तिका है, अगर आप उसके आर्कियोलॉजिकल ट्रेसेस लेने जाओगे तो वो इंडस वैली में मिलते हैं. आपको प्रॉपर इंडस वैली की सील्स में आपको स्वस्तिका मिलेगा. निकुंज ने एक बहुत ही ज़रूरी बात कही थी. निकुंज ने बोला भाषा, लैंग्वेज मैटर करती है. द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम, एंड दिस इज़ वेयर मैं क्यों ये कह रहा हूँ कि हाँ भाई, अभी जो इंडियन सुनने वाला है, इंडियन फ्रॉम इंडिया बाय द वे, इसको बुरा नहीं मनाना, मगर ये फैक्ट है, मैं बता रहा हूँ, क्योंकि आई हैव द यूनिक एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ लिविंग इन बोथ साइड्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. सो मुझे यहाँ का भी समझ पड़ता है, वहाँ का भी समझ पड़ता है. इंडियंस फ्रॉम इंडिया आर क्रास. I say this with all responsibility. they actually ruin things for Indians outside India. Because होता क्या है मालूम है कि वो एक चीज कोई कहता है और 50,000 लोग कमेंट सेक्शन में आ जाते हैं और उसके माँ के बहन की बाप की सब कुछ कर देते हैं उधर बैठ के. वो देखते नहीं है कि वो लीडर है, वो देखते नहीं है कि वो कौन है, क्योंकि उनको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. उन्होंने बोला है अंग्रेज हमको छोड़ के चले गए, ये कौन अंग्रेज है. पहली बात, हर गोरा सेम नहीं होता, गोरे गोरे भी अलग होते हैं. रशियन गोरा अलग है, अमेरिकन गोरा अलग है, कैनेडियन गोरा अलग है, ये लोग अलग अलग लोग होते हैं. तो ये जो समस्या है अनुज, इसका क्या करें हम लोग, जो हमारे साइड से, जो हम इतने ब्यूटीफुल लैंग्वेज के द्वारा बेचारे जो हिंदू हमारे बाहर रहते हैं उनकी पत्थर ठोक देते हैं.
सो बेसिकली क्या हुआ है, मैं आपको अपना एक ट्रू एक्सपीरियंस बताता हूँ. सो ऑन 30th December 2021 we released this documentary, and within 3 days there was एक MP था फ्रॉम द कैनेडियन पार्लियामेंट, उसका कुछ जूलियन नाम है, अब आगे का नाम मैं भूल गया. सो he tweeted about a proposed bill which was supposed to come in the Canadian Parliament, and the language he used was of course like swastika, hate symbol, जो भी था, तो उस तरीके की लैंग्वेज यूज की हुई थी उसने. एंड this happened after 3 days of the release of the documentary. So वहां उसके ट्वीट के नीचे लोगों ने साला गालियां दे दे के MP की उसकी ऐसी तैसी कर दी. फिर उसके बाद क्या हुआ है, देन आफ्टर व्हाट हैपेंड इन कनाडा, जो ट्रकर्स का पूरा मुद्दा उठा, तो ट्रकर्स का पूरा मुद्दा उठा, उसमें दे यूज दैट फ्लैग, दैट नाजी फ्लैग. So उसके बाद ट्रूडो made a comment, the swastika comment in parliament. There was a discussion happening, और वो जो अपना वहाँ पे कौन खालिस्तानी है, क्या नाम है उसका, जगमीत नाम है ना,
हगमीत.
तो वो
उसको सिर्फ मैं हगमीत बुलाता हूँ और कुछ.
हाँ, तो हगमीत ने वो उसने साले ने ट्वीट किया. तो आफ्टर दैट जो भी मतलब ये सारा सिचुएशन बनी, तो देयर वर सेवरल पीपल हु वर यूजिंग द स्वास्तिका रिमार्क, कंपेयरिंग स्वास्तिका विद द नाजी सिंबल. तो हर ट्वीट के नीचे अपनी जो इंडियन कम्युनिटी है उसने साला यही किया है, वो ट्वीट किया, उसके नीचे वो डॉक्यूमेंट्री का लिंक लिया है, और साले अंधे देख इसे देख, इसमें वो सबटाइटल भी हैं देख. मेरे पास 50 स्क्रीनशॉट थे इस चीज के. सो शुरुआत में आई वॉज लाइक, मुझे थोड़ा ठीक लग रहा था. मैंने कहा यार ये चलो लोगों तक पहुंचेगी, इन लोगों तक भी पहुंचेगी. एंड एक एक्चुअली में ऐसा हुआ भी. देयर इज अ पॉलिटिशियन इन US. So I think she has never won an election, but she वो contest करती है. So she's वो एक अश्वेत महिला है. तो उसके साथ क्या हुआ था कि उसने ट्वीट किया आफ्टर किसी ने उसके नीचे ट्वीट किया, डॉक्यूमेंट्री का लिंक ट्वीट किया, तो उसने वो देख ली और डॉक्यूमेंट उसके सबटाइटल्स के साथ. एंड देन शी ट्वीटेड के मैं इसके लिए नाजी हैकन शब्द जो है वो यूज करूंगी. तो इस तरीके का उसका ट्वीट था. तो अब तब तक मुझे थोड़ा ठीक लग रहा था, बट देन कुछ समय में जो चीज थी वो ऐसी होगी कि आप गालीबाजी कर रहे हो, आप लोगों को मतलब समझाने की जगह ये सारी चीजें हो जाती हैं, और उससे जो होती है बात हाथों से निकल जाती है. एंड दिस वी हैव टू लर्न आवरसेल्फ कि यार आपको एक सिविलाइज डिबेट करनी है, तो उसके अंदर बेसिकली इंफॉर्मेशन से लोडेड डिबेट होती है. इंफॉर्मेशन से आपका आर्ग्यूमेंट बनता है. हमारे यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि दैट द हैबिट ऑफ रीडिंग बुक्स वो हम लूज कर चुके हैं, एंड ड्यू टू दैट हम लोग किसी भी चीज पर एक कंक्लूजन बना लेते हैं, और वो कंक्लूजन विदाउट इंफॉर्मेशन होता है, जिसकी वजह से वो एक बबल होता है और उसमें कोई बस फुस होता है, वो हवा होती है. अगर आप उसको एक आर्ग्यूमेंट बनाओगे, इंफॉर्मेशन से लोड करोगे, तब जाकर लोग उसको समझेंगे. अदरवाइज द वर्ल्ड इज नॉट गोइंग टू टेक यू सीरियसली. और दूसरी चीज, इफ यू आर मेकिंग दोज वाइल्ड कमेंट्स, then nobody is going to watch it anyway. वो कहेगा साला तू मेरे को यहाँ पे पागल बोल रहा है, सुअर बोल रहा है, और कुछ भी बोल रहा है, वो क्यों देखेगा उस चीज को? They're not going to watch it. So we have to make arguments in a very civil manner. We have to believe in the information. Otherwise, as you said, it's a lost case. World is not going to take you seriously.
नहीं
इनफैक्ट ये एंड दिस इज अ ट्रेंड, और मैं ये क्यों कह रहा ना अनुज, देखो मैं शाम और अभिजीत हर थर्सडे को एक शो करते हैं जिसमें भर भर के हम गालियां देते हैं। सो मगर हम हमेशा बहुत केयरफुल होते हैं हम गालियां किस
कहाँ पे
तरीके
देनी
से देते हैं और क्या करना है। मगर एट द सेम टाइम हम लोग को जब एक स्कॉलरली पेपर लिखना होता है तो हम लोग में दम है कि हम एक स्कॉलरली पेपर भी लिख सकें। इसीलिए मैंने क्विलेट पे चारवाक के ऊपर लिखा था, नहीं तो क्विलेट मुझे नहीं लाता था। क्या क्विलेट को मालूम नहीं था मैं भर भर के गालियां देता हूँ? मैं देता हूँ, मगर फिर भी इट हैज टू बी बैक्ड अप बाय सॉलिड कंटेंट। और वी डोंट नो किसको गालियां देनी है। देखो अगर तुम्हें न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स को गाली देनी है ना, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, जी भर के गाली दो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स को। क्योंकि just to give you an example, I don't know if you did the content analysis on 15th of August, Nikunj, but Washington Post, New York Times,
Oh, yeah.
Atlantic, The Economist, everybody on cue, one after the other, opinion piece, shitting on India.
Yep.
One after the other. Everybody's shitting on, and all of them, they just use Indians to shit on India. It's
Yep.
every time there's a pattern. So if the average Indian wants to abuse them, that I don't care. But here's the reality, which I have realized in 2 months. All the policymakers, they read them, whether you like it or not. They read them. Now, if you're going to abuse New York Times, I understand. But the policymaker, if you do that to them, best of luck.
Yeah.
Best of luck. They're not going to change.
And that's what they want. Actually,
Absolutely.
उसमें होता क्या है कि they want, some of them want an excuse to basically say, oh, you guys are abusing me, so I'm not going to listen to you. I feel threatened. I've gotten, the Audrey Trushki का जो होता है ना मामला basically says, oh, I've gotten death threats. That's what, at the end of the day, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Some one guy decides to say you should be, done this or that. Usko leke, they're all going to say, we have received hundreds of these messages, this and that. ऐसे करके they'll dismiss your total argument. So all the stuff that you work hard, people are not going to change. But the problem is that we have to try to do the research and stay calm and then act civil, in a civil manner. This is not a Bollywood movie. This is real world where people actually want a good argument and they would like to listen. Whether they agree with you or not, they want a good argument. That's how other communities win. If you look at the Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Sikh community, they have very strong arguments from a scholar perspective, but also from an activist perspective, but respectful. They will argue in a respectful manner, not abusing anybody, and respecting the other person's viewpoint, whether you agree with them or not. Then the policymaker will listen to you. But if you're going to go गालियां दोगे, like abuse करोगे उनको Twitter पे या कहीं भी, तो वो लोग नहीं सुनने वाले. That's just the reality.
Yep. And this is my experience. Whenever you build a case for something, make sure you are as unemotional as possible. Like, be prepared that you could be wrong about the case you're making. 2, try to use primary sources and try to use as many primary sources that the other side also considers a primary source. I'm not saying it has to be the norm, but try to make cases through people they read themselves. Try to make. So I'll give you a very tongue-in-cheek example. Not that I am a big follower of that person, but one of the most hilarious things I came across, and see, if you want to mock people, mock them this way. So Candace Owens, I'm not a fan. I'll be very clear. I mean, I don't understand her worldview. I'm not saying she's a bad person either. But when the New York Times reached out to Candace Owens about her comments on Ukraine, they emailed her, "Hi Candace, can you tell me how did you come up with this idea about what Ukraine is and why do you oppose Ukraine in this entire fiasco?" She basically did the funniest thing I've seen in my life. She took all New York Times articles up to 2018 and she basically said, I am a regular New York Times reader and these are all my sources for formulating an opinion on
About Ukraine.
About Ukraine. I have never laughed harder in my life. I was like, isko bolte hai keh ke lena. और सिविलाइज भाषा में इसने लिया, उसने कुछ नहीं किया, उसने उनका ईमेल और उसके रिप्लाई का स्क्रीनशॉट उसने ट्विटर पे डाल दिया. नाउ दैट, सी, द न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स हैज नो कम बैक देयर because we are basing our facts on what you told us. So it is the language of discourse is very important. हाँ Anuj.
So basically, when we were doing the research for this documentary, the primary thing was to use the primary resource or the first-hand resource. So the primary resources were the speeches of Hitler or the writings of Hitler, right? So this was the precondition we discussed with I discussed with my brother Gavit. So हमने यही डिसाइड किया था कि बिल्कुल इस पॉइंट से नहीं हटना है, बिकॉज अदरवाइज वो जो होता है ना, वो सामने से ही आपके आर्गुमेंट को रिजेक्ट कर देते हैं अगर आप प्राइमरी सोर्सेज यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं. सो क्या हुआ था कि देयर वाज अ बुक जो हिटलर के सारी स्पीचेस को कंटेन करती है. सो लाइफ्स एंड टाइम्स ऑफ हिटलर इस टाइप से एक बुक थी, और उसको हमने पढ़ना शुरू किया, और उसमें बहुत सारी अजीब अजीब सी चीज़ें मुझे काफ़ी बड़ी बुक थी. तो शुरुआत में आई वाज लाइक कि मुझे काम का माल तो मिल नहीं रहा है. बट देन उससे क्या हुआ कि मुझे एक पर्सनैलिटी जो थी हिटलर की वो समझने में थोड़ा और आसानी होने लगी. देन मैं 1929 तक पहुंचता हूँ, और वहाँ पर उसकी एक स्पीच मुझे मिलती है, एंड आई वाज लाइक, उससे पहले भी कुछ स्पीचेस थी जो शायद मैंने, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट्री में यूज नहीं की, बिकॉज कितना यूज करेगा बंदा. सो 1929 में आई रीच्ड एंड आई सॉ स्पीच, सॉरी स्पीच नॉट स्पीच, अ डिस्कशन विद अनदर पॉलिटिशियन नेम्ड ऑटो स्ट्रेसर. So he was discussing the race with that politician, and he was saying that Hindus are inferior race, and that cleared my mind. मैंने कहा साला ये बंदा खुद बोल रहा है और हमको ये साला पढ़ा रहे हैं कि वो हिंदुओं से इन्फ्लुएंस था, उसका बंदा गीता जेब में रख के घूमता था एंड व्हाट नॉट, एंड they are not showing any primary sources for their discourse. एंड मैंने उसके बाद अपनी जो रिसर्च थी उसको बेस ही इस चीज पे कर दिया कि उसने हिंदुओं के बारे में, भारत के बारे में किस तरीके से अपना ओपिनियन रखा है. एंड टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, आई वॉज शॉक्ड, बिकॉज उससे पहले मेरा हिटलर के ऊपर, हिटलर के जीवन के ऊपर ऐसा कुछ बहुत ज्यादा रिसर्च नहीं था. कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज ऑफ कोर्स मैंने देखी थी, बट ऐसा कुछ नहीं था कि मैं उसको इस टाइप का एक ओपिनियन बना सकूं. सो दैट हैपेंड, and that cleared my mind about his perception on India. Then the second thing, which when you started this discussion, you were saying that Western world were also using the word swastika. That is true, but that also took me somewhere, because while doing the research, I reached a point where I found a school in US, the Westfield High School. In the 1913 yearbook, they were using a symbol on their yearbook, and they were using the name Gamadian. So I started doing some research, and I got to know that before 1871, they were the Western world was not using the word swastika for the symbol, right? And then after digging further, I got to know that in 1871 there was some excavations taking place in the city of Troy in the ancient Greece, which is Turkey right now. So they found some pottery there, they found that symbol there. So what happened, that this person, Heinrich Schliemann, who was doing this excavation, he used the word swastika in his book for the symbol, right? So prior to that, in 1869, Hitler was studying in a school in a Lambeck Abbey monastery, right? So the head of that monastery was also using this symbol on his coat when he died. So in 1869, they made a statue of that head. And on right. So his coat still has that symbol. So that was like, so after 1871 they, अच्छा अब क्या होता है कि उन्होंने 1871 में इस शब्द का प्रयोग करना फिर वो शुरू करते हैं. उससे पहले उन्होंने जो अपनी बुक लिखी हेनरिक श्लीमैन में, उसने अपना वो शब्द यूज किया, बट जो मैक्स म्यूलर था जो भारत में गंद फैला रहा था, तो उसने कहा कि यार ये स्वास्तिक शब्द यूज मत करो, क्योंकि अगर तुम स्वास्तिक शब्द यूज करते हो तो ऐसा मैसेज जाता है बेसिकली कि जो दिस वर्ल्ड, द क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड इज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय द इंडियन सिंबल और द हिंदू सिंबल, ऐसा सिंबल जाता है, और मैं यहाँ पे कुछ और करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। तो इस टाइप का एक मैसेज वहां से आप निकाल सकते हैं उसकी किताब से। उसके बाद, बिकॉज दिस वाज द ओनली प्रूफ जो मुझे मिला था, बट उसके बाद मैंने क्या कहा कि क्या सिर्फ मैक्स मिलर का ही एक एग्जाम्पल है जिसमें वो इस प्रकार का कोई प्रतिकार कर रहा है, बट ऐसा नहीं था। एक म्यूजियम है इधर फ्रांस में जो कि बास्क म्यूजियम है, तो वहां पर उन्होंने अपनी वो ईयरबुक निकालते हैं, वो बुकलेट निकालते हैं, तो 1936 में उन्होंने निकाला है ये। 1936 में वो इस चीज को प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं कि इस सिंबल के लिए स्वास्तिक शब्द क्यों यूज कर रहे हो। वो कह रहे हैं कि ऐसे जो सिंबल है वो बास्क क्षेत्र है, वहां पर बास्क रीजन है, तो वहां पर बहुत मिलता है सिंबल इस प्रकार के क्रॉस। दे हैव कैटेगोरिकली यूज्ड द वर्ड बास्क क्रॉस फॉर दैट सिंबल, right? So they are fighting on this issue, they're publishing it in their booklet, और उसके लिए लड़ रहे हैं, right? So यहाँ से दो चीजें क्लियर होती हैं। बट एक और क्वेश्चन जो मेरे दिमाग में आया, दैट 1871 में अगर ऑक्सफोर्ड डिक्शनरी कह रही है कि इंग्लिश भाषा में ये स्वास्तिक शब्द आता है, तो 1871 से पहले ये क्या यूज कर रहे थे? नाउ व्हाइल फाइंडिंग दिस थिंग, मैं एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज पर पहुंचता हूं। 1851 में एक बुक पब्लिश होती है ब्रिटिश लाइब्रेरी की, आई थिंक वो बुक है द परस्यूएंट ऑफ आर्म्स। तो इस बुक में क्या होता है, इस बुक में मैं एक पैराग्राफ में पहुंचता हूं, वहां पर वो कैटेगोरिकली लिख रहे हैं कि ये जो सिंबल है ये गैमेडियन या फिर फिलफॉट, इसको हम बोल सकते हैं। फिर आगे वो लिख रहे हैं दैट दिस सिंबल, ये सिंबल क्रीट सभ्यता, क्रीट सिविलाइजेशन जो है उसके सिक्कों पर भी मिलता है दिस सिंबल, राइट? और उसके बाद वो कैटेगोरिकली फिर लिख रहे हैं कि इतना फेमस और कोई एग्जांपल हमारे पास नहीं है, राइट? स्वास्तिक वाज यूज्ड सिंस एजेस इन डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, और इन इंडिया एटलीस्ट, बाकी बुद्धिस्ट जैन सिंबल वो भी यूज कर रहे हैं उसे। सो उनको, अगर हम इस पैराग्राफ को माने, इस बुक को माने, तो उनको इस टाइम तक स्वास्तिक के बारे में बहुत ज्यादा कुछ नहीं पता था। हो सकता है किसी को पता हो, बट इस बुक के अनुसार तो कुछ ऐसा नहीं था कि वो बहुत फेमस नेम था या सिंबल था, उसके बारे में वो जानते तक नहीं थे। सो यहाँ से मुझे ये क्लैरिटी आई दैट टिल 1871 दे वर नॉट इवन यूजिंग द वर्ड स्वास्तिक। बट फिर मैंने क्या किया कि मैंने इससे पहले की जर्मन डिक्शनरी निकाली। सो जर्मन डिक्शनरी थी 1798 की, द एडलॉन्ग डिक्शनरी। उसमें उन्होंने क्या यूज किया हुआ है, उसमें उन्होंने वर्ड यूज किया है हाकन क्रॉयस। सो दे आर डिफाइनिंग दिस वर्ड, जर्मन टू इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन था, दे आर डिफाइनिंग दिस वर्ड अ क्रॉस एम्बेलिश्ड विद और गार्निश्ड विद हुक्स, सो दैट इज हाकन क्रॉयस फॉर देम, राइट? सो वहां से बिल्कुल क्लियर हो गया दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर वर्ल्ड is they knew what Hakenkreuz was, but स्वास्तिक उनको नहीं पता था। वो 1851 के बुक से आप एग्जांपल ले सकते हैं कि स्वास्तिक के बारे में वो कुछ खास नहीं जानते थे। जबकि मैंने कुछ गैजेट्स, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, मैंने गैजेट्स भी निकाल के देखे थे उस टाइम के, जो ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ निकाले हों, उनमें कुछ वर्ड मिले मुझे उसमें भी नहीं मिला कुछ इस टाइप का वर्ड यूज। वो मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट्री में काफी चीजें मैंने छोड़ी हैं जो मैंने रिसर्च की थी, बट मुझे उसमें भी नहीं मिला। मैं काफी श्योर होना चाहता था इस चीज के बारे में। सो 1871 से पहले आपको एग्जांपल्स नहीं मिलेंगे। 1871 के बाद देयर इज यूएस में आपको एग्जांपल्स यू कैन फाइंड, इवन देयर इज आई थिंक अभी भी है वो स्वास्तिक सिटी भी है वहां पर यूएस में। देयर इज अ सिटी, राइट? इट्स देयर, न्यूयॉर्क में है ना? हाँ, देयर इज अ सिटी नेम्ड स्वास्तिका। देयर वाज अ टॉफी बॉक्स था। अच्छा, हाँ, मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि देयर इज आई थिंक इट्स अ ब्रिटिश टॉफी ब्रांड जिसका नाम था हुक्ड क्रॉस, लकी क्रॉस टॉफी, ऐसे कुछ नाम था उसका।
आई थिंक
मैंने
ऑन्टेरियो
कहा
में भी एक स्वास्तिक करके एक सिटी है बाय द वे,
Yeah.
अच्छा
Northern,
कनाडा में.
yeah, Ontario में mining town called Swastika. Yeah. Yeah, Swastika नाम है. फिर Swastika trail भी है. There are a lot of different things going on. Yes.
सो ऐसा
but
ऐसा मेरे को काफी एग्जांपल मिले. अच्छा ये देखिए आप, इफ यू गूगल लकी क्रॉस टॉफी तो विल फाइंड के एक टॉफी का ब्रांड भी है. लकी क्रॉस टॉफी के नाम से उनका ब्रांड था, जो कि आई थिंक इट्स नॉट रनिंग एनीमोर. सो वहां से यू गेट द आइडिया. फिर मुझे वहां के कुछ स्टॉक सर्टिफिकेट्स मिले स्टॉक्स के, जिसमें दे वर यूजिंग लकी स्टार, लकी क्रॉस उन्होंने बोला, वो लकी क्रॉस स्वास्तिका नीचे लिखा हुआ था. ऐसा ये यूएस का एक मेरे को स्टॉक सर्टिफिकेट मुझे मिला था. सो वहां से एक चीज क्लियर हो गई कि टिल अ पर्टिकुलर टाइम दे वर नॉट यूजिंग दिस नेम, राइट. या ब्रिटिश लकी क्रॉस टॉफी कैंडी टिन स्टोर जो भी है ये. तो यहां से मुझे क्लैरिटी आ गई कि भाई एक पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट तक दे वर नॉट यूजिंग द वर्ड स्वास्तिका. आफ्टर excavations, वो बहुत पॉपुलर excavations हैं by the way, because they found the city of Troy. So Troy is a famous city. So वहां से वो बहुत famous excavations हुए थे, और उसके बाद बहुत सारे और blunders हुए हैं. उनमें जाएंगे तो फिर बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में चीजें हो जाएंगी. बट वहां से स्वास्तिक नाम आता है, और उसके बाद they were using this particular name at some places like in US. वो स्वास्तिक नाम उन्होंने कुछ जगहों पर यूज किया है फॉर अ क्रॉस, नॉट फॉर द इंडियन सिंबल. देन ऑल्सो they were not only using the swastik, they were also using different names. Like I gave the example of the 1913 yearbook on the Westfield High School. They were using the name Gamadion also. So ऐसा नहीं था कि वो सिर्फ स्वस्तिक नाम ही यूज कर रहे थे. So कुछ regions, और then अगर हम यूरोप में जाते हैं, so 1920 तक फिनलैंड की जो वायुसेना है, जो एयर फोर्स है, दे वर यूजिंग दिस सिंबल टिल 2020. 2 साल पहले तक वो यूज कर रहे हैं इस सिंबल को, एंड दे वर कॉलिंग इट हाकारिस्टी, राइट. इफ यू ट्रांसलेट इट, वो आपको रिजल्ट देता है हाकन क्रॉस. इफ यू गो टू फ्रांस, तो फ्रांस में भी ये सिंबल यूज होता था, क्रॉक्स गैमे, वो उसको बोलते थे, आई थिंक.
Yeah, Cārvāka. Yeah.
राइट. सो इस टाइप के वो लोग नाम यूज करते थे, एंड टिल अ पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट दे वर हेल बेंट, एंड दे वर लाइक रिजेक्टिंग दिस सिंबल एज वो बोलते थे कि यार इसको स्वास्तिक क्यों बोल रहे हो आप. आपको मैंने इसमें डॉक्यूमेंट्री में भी देयर आर सेवरल एग्जांपल्स. और उनके जो बड़े बड़े दानेश्वर जिनको हम कहते हैं, बुद्धिजीवी, वो लोग भी इसको अपोज कर रहे थे. बट जैसे ही ये कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कैंप्स, ऑश्विट्ज़, ब्ला ब्ला हुआ, उसके बाद सारा खेल बदल गया. उसके बाद किसी ने अपोज करना भी, दे वर नॉट इवन अपोजिंग. और if we read the translated work of Mein Kampf in 1931, the book was translated by E.T.S. Jagdal. So in his translation, he used the word hooked cross in his translation. But in the later translation, which happened in 1939, because 1939 में Britain started the war against Germany, because Poland को उसने रौन डाला था हिटलर ने, तो वो ब्रिटेन भी कूद गया युद्ध में. अब डर सताने लगा कि यार साला ये तो गड़बड़ हो रही है. और ऐसा नहीं है, ये खुल के था ये सारी चीजें. जैसे कि मैंने इसमें कार्टून भी दिखाया, और एक ही कार्टून दिखाया है. देयर वाज अनदर कार्टून, एक पोलैंड के ही पेपर में एक और कार्टून छपा था, वो भी सेम लाइन पर ही था, बट वो मैंने इसमें दिखाया नहीं था. सो उस कार्टून में भी दे आर शोइंग कि एक देयर इज अ चिंपैंजी और देयर इज अ गोरिल्ला, जो कि क्रॉस को, नॉर्मल क्रॉस को हुक्ड क्रॉस में बदल रहा है वो. और वो नीचे उसको लिखते हैं द न्यू क्रिश्चियनिटी. उसको कैटेगोरिकली साफ साफ लिखते हैं दैट दिस सिंबल. वो उसको एक्सप्लेन कर देते हैं कि जो हिटलर बेसिकली कर रहा है, वो न्यू क्रिश्चियनिटी बनाने की एक प्रकार से कोशिश कर रहा है. और खैर ये डिबेट थोड़ी डिस्कशन थोड़ा सा अलग डायरेक्शन में चला जाएगा. अगर हम हिटलर क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहा था उस डायरेक्शन में जाने लगे, तो वो बिकॉज क्लियर भी नहीं है कि वो क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहा था. मेरे हिसाब से उसका वो मेंटली रिटार्डेड बंदा था, और वो कुछ अलग ही एक कल्ट बनाने की कोशिश कर रहा था. और बट खैर हमारा जो मेन पॉइंट है वो स्वस्तिक था. सो स्वस्तिक ही नेवर यूज्ड, ही यूज्ड हैकन क्रॉस. एंड 1798 की जो हमारी डिक्शनरी मिलती है, उसमें हैकन क्रॉस इज अ is a kind of cross garnished with hooks. तो यहाँ से बात खत्म हो जाती है. अब आप बीच में उसको स्वास्तिक यूज करने लगे, कुछ भी यूज करने लगे, तो भाई अगर मैं किसी का नाम बदल के मैं उसका चिंटू नाम रख दूं तो चिंटू हो जाएगा. अब क्या होता था कि जब हम ब्लैक्स को जब वो स्लेव बनाते थे, तो फर्स्ट थिंग दे यूज्ड टू डू वाज कि उसका नाम बदलते थे, राइट? कोई बड़ा मैसबेगांजा नाम का एक अश्वेत व्यक्ति कीनिया से लेकर आ रहे हैं, उसका नाम वो टोबू रखते थे सबसे पहले, तो अपनी नजरों में उसको गिराते थे, राइट? सो आई थिंक जो हमारा पॉइंट था वो यही था कि स्वास्तिक नाम एक पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम के बाद उन्होंने यूज करना शुरू किया है, और उसको भी वो एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम तक रिजेक्ट कर रहे थे. पर आफ्टर concentration camps happened और ऑशविट्ज happened और ब्रिटेन जो था वो लड़ाई में पहुंच गया, तो उसके बाद उन्होंने उसको रिजेक्ट करना भी बंद कर दिया था. और टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, ये कभी भी ऐसा नहीं होता है कि गवर्नमेंट ने बैक एंड में शायद कुछ किया हो, हमें नहीं पता क्या किया है, बट एक गलत ट्रांसलेशन किया गया. मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट्री में भी यही बोला था कि गलत ट्रांसलेशन किया गया, हमें नहीं पता बैक एंड पे क्या किया गया है, ठीक है? सो बैक एंड पे क्या हुआ हो हमें नहीं पता. सो धीरे धीरे करके मीडिया का यूज करते हुए, फिल्म्स का यूज करते हुए, आर्टिकल्स का यूज करते हुए इसको हर बंदे के दिमाग में स्वास्तिक बना दिया गया. अदरवाइज 1946 आफ्टर द वॉर वाज ओवर, सो 1946 में एरिजोना क्वार्टरली ने जो है हिटलर के लिए एक आर्टिकल लिखा. उसने वर्ड यूज किया गैमेडियन माइंडेड, हिटलर के लोगों के लिए जो गैमेडियन वाला दिमाग है उनका, और सिंबल को उन्होंने यूज करते हुए. फिर 1954 में भी एक नॉवल था, वो मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट्री में नहीं डाला है, मैं उस नॉवल का नाम टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट भूल गया हूँ. उसमें भी वो लोग गैमेडियन ही यूज कर रहे हैं हिटलर के सिंबल के लिए. इन 1978 में भी देयर इज कोई, आई थिंक I forgot the name of the there was some TV series or something. तो उसमें they have used other word other than swastik. तो there are many examples कि ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने एक दिन में लोगों के दिमाग में घुसा दिया है कि ये स्वस्तिक है. धीरे धीरे करके, और क्या होता है ना, फिल्मों का बहुत बड़ा योगदान होता है. फिल्म्स जो होती हैं दे आर द बिगेस्ट सॉफ्ट पावर. ऐसे नहीं बोलते, फिल्म्स जो बहुत बड़ी सॉफ्ट पावर होती हैं. तो फिल्म्स दर फिल्म आप देख लीजिए, आज तक जो रैबिट तक देख लीजिए आप, दे आर यूजिंग द वर्ड स्वस्तिक. बैड बॉयज अभी आई है, दे आर यूजिंग द वर्ड स्वस्तिक. कैसे नहीं घुसेगा लोगों के दिमाग में? पिछले 50 60 70 सालों से 80 सालों से आप साला सेम चीज बोले जा रहे हो, तो घुसेगा लोगों के दिमाग में. तो ये मीडिया जो होती है वो सच को भी झूठ बना सकती है, और उन्होंने बनाया था. बट इट्स आवर टाइम टू reclaim things.
Okay, so Nikunj, just in a tongue-in-cheek way, let's assume the Aryan migration or Aryan invasion is real, for argument's sake, and I'm being very serious and tongue-in-cheek at the same time. I don't get these buggers. There is clear evidence that it's a IVC symbol as far as the Indians are concerned. Now, if I am looking at that mindset from the oppressor-oppressed mindset, right? So Aryans came from outside. They have usurped the native symbol. Why do they hate the native symbol? If anything, these buggers, because we're all the same stock, right? We're the Indo-European language family, because it's all the Indo-European language family people who are having this problem with the swastika. You're actually suppressing a native culture symbol. You're actually ruining a native culture symbol. So even if because all these people who are in this camp are also in the camp that AIT, AMT is real. So it makes no sense to me, because that means they don't even study things. That they don't realize by doing something like this, they're screwing the natives of India, for whom they call the natives of India. I think I'm native of India. Anuj is native of India. You are native of India. So just for clarity. Yeah. But the point is, for these dum-dums, they actually don't realize that they are holding two absolutely illogical and contradictory views. Don't you think it's amazing?
Yeah, it's actually designed, as you had mentioned earlier, ki Okay, take like all the good things, right? And you change them saying, oh, yoga, well, it's not, I can't use that word because, it's not going to be palatable. But assign a bad idea and a bad concept to the natives to basically show that, look, this civilization has been inherently bad. All the good things are not really that part of that civilization. All the bad things, let's assign to them. So the swastika concept is really, on one side you say the Aryan invasion theory is true, but then if it's true, then you don't want to admit the fact that you were basically endorsing Hitler. Because if you say Aryan invasion theory is true, now you are saying that what Hitler was using was the same theory that you think is true, right? So एक side में they want to deny that. On the other side, when we claim the fact that, hey, look, swastika has nothing to do with Hitler, and if they say no, Hitler is too bad. So what? Okay, you give me all these facts. So what? It doesn't matter. It's too late. For me, it's like that's just Western universalism and hegemony. At the end of the day, that's what it is. That you don't want to let the natives have their own narrative. And it's not just the Hindus, even the Native Americans. In 1945, the 5 Native American tribes, okay, were essentially forced to sign a declaration that they will never ever use their sacred symbol, which is the swastika. Imagine this. Okay, 5 of them signed a declaration that says that they were never going to their symbol for their sacred ceremonies. This can actually happen. What most people don't realize, that this can actually happen to even the Hindus. Maybe not today. We have a big population, but things change in small pockets of the world. You know that the Jain organizations in America, in the Jain symbol, the Jain stamba, they have the swastika. Okay? But the Jain organizations, or one of the main Jain organizations in America, removed that from their website because they said that we don't want to offend people in America and actually have the swastika there because this is considered a symbol of hate here. So this has happened, and we need to understand that this issue is real. For me, I'll give you a small example. Let's say I draw a plus sign, okay, on a wall, a red plus sign on the wall. And if I ask a mathematician, what is that? He's going to say a plus sign. But if I go and ask a guy who works for the Red Cross, he's going to say, that is my symbol. Is a symbol of the Red Cross. And if you ask a Christian guy, he's going to say, well, that looks like the sacred cross. So for that same symbol can have different names for different people. ठीक है ना? So for me, swastika is copyrighted for Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, and to an extent Native Americans. So when you are going to
so I just have a question here. So are you trying to say that it also the nuance is about understanding the native cultures better?
Yes, absolutely. So you have to assign the native language or the native symbols and their meanings to the native culture and accept that. Don't put your Western lens and use whatever words you want for that. Because we do the other way also. We make sure that we say that this is the sacred cross. This is not the Hitler's cross, right? So we are distinguishing. In America, as I mentioned before, they distinguish between the burning cross and the sacred cross. Nobody's going and saying in Christian churches that, hey, that's a symbol of hate. Please remove that from your church. No one's going to say that. But if the KKK comes around and puts the burning cross on someone's lawn, everyone's going to say that's a burning cross. That's a symbol of hate. So people have learned to distinguish. So all we are saying is that through the documentary, people should understand that leave the sacred symbol alone, distinguish between the sacred symbol, which is called swastika, which literally means well-being and goodness and all that peace, and Hakenkreuz, which actually means hooked cross. Now, in the documentary, Anuj mentioned that, but if you go to the U.S. Holocaust Museum's website, there's 2 interesting dichotomies. On one side, they have the swastika. That swastika is ancient, but it was used by Hitler, okay? And they use the English translation that James Murphy and others have done, where they have taken Hakenkreuz and translated into swastika. However, on the same website, they have an entire section on Christianity and anti-Semitism. Okay, an entire section. In October 2021, they held an event that talked about Christianity and anti-Semitism and how to reconcile to truth and all that stuff. So they're basically showing that the anti-Semitism is considered the longest hate. So for the past 2,000 years, The Jews have been blamed for the death of Jesus Christ and other things. So there is a real deep hatred, anti-Semitic hatred in that side of the world. Now, if there is a Christian angle here for 2,000 years, why do you want to blame a foreign symbol? Majority of Germans are Christians. They were Christians that time also when Hitler was around. Why would they be inspired by a foreign symbol? I mean, man, you have, let's say, you like some kind of a symbol that's your favorite symbol, but I tell you to use something totally different. You're not going to resonate with that symbol. But if I'm going to tell you that this is the sign of this is the sign of the cross, this is the Jesus Christ symbol of his death, victory, persecution, and rising from the dead, all of those things. Now, if you're a German Christian, you will agree with that. And that's why he kept using the word Hakenkreuz. In fact, Hitler's followers were known as Hakenkreuzlers, okay? And his movement was called the Hakenkreuz movement. These are the words that have been used in New York Times. 1922 was the first time New York Times covered the rise of Hitler. First article, okay? And in that, they very specifically used the Hakenkreuz movement, Hakenkreuz, and Hakenkreuzlers.
That too 4 times.
Multiple times. So all of this time, they were using this word. And so why all of a sudden swastika comes in? That's where the documentary provides a lot of good information about where the origin is.
And in 1923 also, so this is really interesting. In 1923 also, they were using the same word, Hakenkreuz. But then, suddenly Hitler got the power in 10 years later. Hitler got the power in 1933, and after he came to the power, they magically they used they used the word swastika. They magically used the word swastika, but they also used the word hooked cross in the same same line, same article. They were using the word hooked cross also. So basically वो बोल रहे थे कि swastik जो था वो भारत से आया है और इस टाइप से उन्होंने वो आर्टिकल लिखा है. So they were equating hooked cross and swastika. वो सेम उसको बता रहे थे. But magically 1939 में वो एक और आर्टिकल लिखते हैं. उसमें वो बोलते हैं कि जो hooked cross है वो एक प्रकार का it's a basic form of cross. There are 5 basic form of cross. One of them is hooked cross, जो कि swastika के प्रभाव में बिल्कुल दब चुका है आज की डेट में, because it resembles with the swastika. So 1933 में they're equating both swastika and hooked cross same चीज है. 1939 में कह रहे हैं कि जो swastika वो hooked cross को खा गया. So वो अपने आप को ही इतना ट्रोल करते हैं, हमें क्या जरूरत है?
Yep, I agree. It's the inconsistency, and it's the refusal to respect, and I think it's got a lot to do with the larger problem of the Hindu community not realizing what assertiveness means, and assertiveness in a correct way, assertiveness in the political sphere. And it's just I don't want to get into that, otherwise that will be another whole podcast. But I'll start taking viewer questions now. So let me start with this one, because this was asked by someone. In the 1960s, Sri Lanka wanted to swap the red cross with the red swastika, similar to Islamic countries using red crescent, Israel using red star of David, etc. The proposal was rejected. Should India approach Red Cross Society with a renewed proposal to reclaim this ancient Indian symbol?
The Red Cross Society?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it has nothing to do with what we're discussing right now. But
I have always mentioned that we're not reclaiming anything, because we never lost it. We didn't give it to anybody. So we're not asking them to, hey, now give it back to us. This idea of returning the glory of swastika, reclaiming the glory of swastika, please throw that out of the window, because we have never stopped using swastika. So we don't need to reclaim or restore the glory. We have always been glorious. We just need to say that, hey, guys, get back off. This is our symbol. Don't touch it. You can go and use another symbol, which is the hooked cross, and condemn it all you want. Back off from our symbol. Number one. Number two, so Sri Lanka is a Buddhist country, right? And that's Buddhist majority country. So if they decided to have swastika on there, great, because it's a very big Buddhist holy symbol. It sits on the heart of Buddha. So as a Buddhist who wants to, sort of assert the fact that that's their symbol, that's well and good. India, on the other hand, probably won't do it because of the bug that goes on in India. And even if 3 religions in India or 4 religions in India will use that symbol, it will never get on the flag, unfortunately. However, having said that, what I suggest to Indian people in India is go and put pressure on Google. Go and put pressure on the dictionaries that are connected to India. India is a big market, so the wrong translations can be corrected in India first, and that will have a big impact. When 1.2 billion people of the world say that this is wrong together, then people will listen. That's the power of Bharat.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, the next question, I think we've already answered this. Somebody had asked, how strongly do Buddhist organizations feel about misrepresentation of the word, and are they willing to help? I think we already answered that.
Yeah, they're starting to help, yes.
Okay, this is interesting. I think, Nikunj, because it's a problem of the diaspora, you have to answer it. I don't blame Anuj. Anuj to India mein baitha hai, uski koi galti nahi hai. So all Hindu organizations, especially temples and other NPOs, supportive of efforts to take back the swastika? If not, why so?
Great point. I would say the mind changing. 2 years ago, when we started the campaign in June of 2020, people had no idea about all of these things. Okay. Now, even temples are realizing that this is a problem. So temples are waking up. They're joining the fight. The 130 organizations that I talked about earlier, they contain many large temples also in there. So things are changing. Things are moving. Unfortunately, what happens is many temples and many organizations are still have it's like the ostrich mentality. Put the head in the sand and think everything is good. If I do my pujas and artis and bhajans and archanas and everything like that, Bhagavan will take care of everything. Well, if that's the case, then Bhagavan did not have to give the Bhagavad Gita and tell Arjuna to go and fight, because then Bhagavan would have taken care of everything. At the end of the day, you got to do your karmas and your dharma. And so that's what people are not realizing still. Yeah. Our last point is, what's in it for me?
ये भगवान को कई बार ये लोग आउटसोर्सिंग एजेंट बना देते हैं.
Outsourcing agent, that is भगवान कई बार नहीं, most of the times. And then what's in it for me? Until your house is on fire, they're not waking up. So it's like, oh, होता है स्वस्तिका चलता है, हमको क्या है यार, हम तो इस्तेमाल करते हैं ना. Until someone comes to your home. I'll give you an example. क्या हुआ? In the pandemic, there was a guy who was, like how we're doing virtual meetings. There was a guy in the virtual meeting and he had a swastika in the background because, some murti had some swastika. He got reported to human resources and is in his own, in his office. He got reported. So the human resources department called him saying that, why are you displaying symbols of hate in your home? And this is not acceptable per our policy and this and that. So the guy had to explain that, what are you talking about? And they said, we saw a Nazi symbol in your house and things like that. They're like, no, that's a swastika. So, but that's what I'm saying. जब घर पे आग लगेगी ना, जब तुम्हारे बच्चों को प्रॉब्लम होगा ना, तब आप उठोगे.
तब तक आप सोने वाले. Not in my own backyard. Yeah, get off.
Exactly.
Yeah, वो typical human mentality. Okay, now we have questions for Anuj. Anuj, the person starts with a comment saying, very detailed documentary. Thank you. Aaj ki taza khabar. Do you have any plans for AKTK English channel for Indian current affairs? Also, please bring back Ranga Siar and Manglu Lakkad Bagga.
अच्छा यार देखो ऐसा है कि टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट इंग्लिश चैनल का प्लान इसलिए नहीं है बिकॉज मैं पर्सनली खुद बोलूँगा तो पता नहीं कितने लोग उसको घोट के पी पाएंगे, ढंग से समझ पाएंगे. मेरी बस इंग्लिश नॉर्मल है, तो इसी वजह से आई वाज हैविंग दिस डिस्कशन विद निकुंज आल्सो एंड मैंने इनको बोला यार मैं तो देखो एंकर वाला पार्ट कर नहीं पाऊंगा. एंड संदीप थे एक कोना से ही, तो मैंने उनको बोला कि यार देखो मैंने निकुंज का जो कुशल के साथ एक पॉडकास्ट है वो देखा है एंड आई फाइंड हिम वेरी कन्विंसिंग व्हेन ही इज स्पीकिंग. तो वो काफी कन्विक्शन के साथ बोल रहे हैं. सो आई वांट दैट कन्विक्शन बिकॉज जब मैं हिंदी में इसको कर रहा था तो आई वाज कन्विंस्ड विद थिंग्स, तो वो कन्विक्शन मेरे फेस पे है और वो कन्विक्शन मैं चाहता था कि वो वॉइस में भी आए जब हम इसको इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेट करें। तो इसलिए निकुंज का नाम मैंने सजेस्ट किया था। तो ही हैज डब्ड द एंकर्स पार्ट। और जहाँ तक चैनल की बात है तो चैनल पे आई एम नॉट वेरी श्योर कि इंग्लिश वाला चैनल आएगा। बाकी जो रंगा सिया और मंगलू लक्कड़ बग्गा है, दीज आर टर्म्स व्हिच we used in our videos earlier to make them reach the young audience, because लोग क्या है ना आजकल सीरियस होना नहीं चाहते, तो उनको उन तक बात पहुंचाने के लिए इस भाषा का प्रयोग हम लोग करते थे और उसी में ही ये यूज किए थे।
We lost him.
Yep, his internet acted up after a while. I think the
अच्छा, चलो.
ghost of Abhijit is back again.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, then all right, let me take some other question up. Are you guys planning to do a documentary on similar issues like caste versus Varna Jati or anything?
I think that there are plans to do that. There's a lot of information. There are a lot of in demand, and people have asked that. So yes, there is. I think Anush is back, but he can talk about that. I think they are working on some. They're going to be working on it. They have a proposal of a bunch of documentaries.
All right. So the Anuj, are there any plans to work on caste and Varna Jati, that in English?
So I had a discussion with Nikunj a few days ago that we can plan, because I have already announced several documentaries and we are collecting funds for them. So one of them is the caste, and it's a very to be very honest, it's a very tricky topic because we do not know. Okay, I know your views on this issue and I share your views. जो ट्विटर पे आप लोग साला लड़ाई होती रहती है ना इस टॉपिक पे, वो मैंने देखा है।
Yeah, you'll have the first person attacking you people over here. And on the record मैं बोल रहा हूँ, you guys are my friends, but I'll be the first one to attack all of you.
हाँ, तो नहीं, मैं खुद अटैक कैसे करोगे? मेरा व्यू आपका वाला व्यू है।
हाँ, तो फिर तो क्यों बना रहे हो?
नहीं, क्या है ना कि अभी क्या है, अभी ये ट्विटर पे बड़ी रैम्बलिंग इस टाइप से होती रहती है कि यार ये तो जन्म से है, ये कर्म से है, ये क्या है, कब से कैसे शुरू हुआ, ये सारा बहुत बहुत कुछ होता रहता है। ठीक है,
नहीं,
पर क्या है,
हाँ, go ahead, finish.
या सो दिस इज ये एक फाइट चलती रहती है। बाकी That's why this is an important issue। और उसमें ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट्स का क्या रोल रहा है, हम कैसे थे। अभी मैं एक बुक देख रहा था, वो 1839 या 49 की बुक है वो। ठीक है, 1851 में आई थिंक फर्स्ट सेंसस हुए हैं ना, 1851 में, 1839 की आई थिंक वो बुक है। उसमें द ब्रिटिश ऑथर इज यूजिंग डिफरेंट पीपल ऑफ डिफरेंट कास्ट। सो उसमें उन्होंने उनका फोटो बनाया हुआ है। सो जिनको आज की डेट में हम शेड्यूल कास्ट भी बोल रहे हैं, वो भी दे आर यूजिंग दैट फोरहेड तिलक प्रॉपर, वो आप उसमें, और एक प्रॉपर जिसको आज हम ब्राह्मण कह रहे हैं, उसमें बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंशिएट नहीं कर पाओगे। मैं एक आई थिंक सपेरा और एक ब्राह्मण की बात कर रहा हूँ, वो मुझे सेम लग रहे थे उसमें। सो अभी देखिए, ये और इस पे बहुत कुछ रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा, बहुत, ये मुझे लगता है कि एक बहुत डिफिकल्ट टास्क है, और इसको हमने अनाउंस किया है विद द हेल्प ऑफ, मैंने निकुंज को भी बोला था कि हम लोग इस पर साथ काम कर सकते हैं, और हिंदी और इंग्लिश इसको दोनों में हमें बनाना चाहिए, बिकॉज एज इन द स्टार्ट ऑफ दिस पॉडकास्ट निकुंज टोल्ड कि ये वहाँ पर भी रेलेवेंट है इशू, एप्पल का वो उन्होंने इशू बताया था एप्पल वाला, तो वहाँ पर भी रेलेवेंट है, हमारे यहाँ पर तो है ही। सो लेट्स सी हम क्या कर सकते हैं इस टॉपिक पर, हम करेंगे डिस्कशन।
Yeah, we'll talk more.
Yeah. So I can only comment when I see the documentary.
Of course. The issue is we can obviously, there are different disagreements on things, but the problem is hota kya is making this weaponized against an entire community to make them irredeemable. Let's say there's a disagreement whether you say, okay, well, caste was part of Hindus, whatever, fine. Now we can disagree on that, that's fine, but what is happening now is even if that was the case, you can never get rid of it. That's what they're saying. And therefore, Hinduism itself needs to be thrown out of the, basically needs to be destroyed and dismantled. So that is what's being used here. And the Apple example I gave you is to make sure that no Hindu manager essentially starts to be proud of themselves being a Hindu, because the moment you are saying you're Hindu, you have this, so your senior management will start to look at you in suspicion. Okay, bhai, this guy's a Hindu. What kind of caste is he thinking about? Which Indian employee has he hired? How has he decided, okay, bhai, this guy's an upper caste, therefore I'm going to hire him because he has a last name of, some upper caste, this and that. That's the dynamic I'm very concerned about. See, घर में हमारा मामला जो है उसमें भाई बहन झगड़ते हैं. We can fight about this in the house and say, okay, I experienced discrimination. Ye hua. It was for 1,000 years. There are different views on that. But the moment someone outside says, well, you all need to be destroyed because this system is never going to be changed, and in order for it to change, it just has to be destroyed. That's the problem at the end of the day.
Right.
So that's where the document will be important. Anyways, that's a different conversation than Swastika.
So I can only give you one suggestion, and it's better that I put it on record, is that when you do a documentary on an issue which is as complex as this, it is always important to remember the demography of Hindus. Always remember that when you give, and I'm not saying you guys are doing that, so please try and understand what I'm saying.
Of course.
When you give arguments on Jati Varna and caste, whatever you want to call it, I call them hierarchies.
Sure.
Whether it's caste or whether it's Jati Varna, it's hierarchies. The issue is not whether hierarchies exist or not. They exist in every culture.
Right.
The issue is whether hierarchies should be fluid or not. And that's the problem. The debate is whether hierarchies were fluid before the
merit-based.
And my answer is very clear. Did they become more rigid with the British coming in? Yes, but that was not totally because of the British, because every meme becomes rigid with time. It just keeps on becoming rigid. And yes, the British played a role in it. The Mughals played a role in it. But best of luck convincing what is loosely called the SC, ST, OBC community currently globally and inside India, because most of them are inside India, with this argument कि हाँ भाई कुछ था ही नहीं, हम तो हाथ पकड़ के नाच रहे थे.
नहीं ऐसा तो नहीं था.
This is and let me tell you, this is why the RSS is very clear on one issue. They may not have clarity on many other issues. They're not going to stand for any of this. They're very clear on this. They know because they deal with it. They deal with it in far more upfront trade. So if you guys are planning a documentary on this is my suggestion. You don't have to take it. Plan it in this way. Plan it in a way that problems exist in our society. The British did this. These are anthropological ways. Other cultures have done it. I can give you primary sources from the Plato's Republic itself, which clearly talks about a 3-tier system. A proper 3-tier system. You can talk about the British class system. I don't know how the British class system is different from what we have loosely called as the caste system here. It is all the same, if you ask me. So if the message through the documentary is, look, Hindus are not unique. Everybody has a system of hierarchies. And I'm going to say something that's going to break many hearts. Yes, the Buddhists also do. The Sikhs also do. The Muslims also do. Everybody does. I mean, if somebody says the tribe of the prophet is not given special preference, they can, sell that Kool-Aid to someone else. I'm not going to buy it. And it's always like this. Human beings are like this. It is anti-evolutionary to assume that Hindus were some unicorn and everybody else was, messed up. It's just anti-evolutionary. But I think you guys should make this documentary. Somebody should. And even if people like me may not be 100% to it, but I want this to happen because this is a discussion that should happen in the Indian society, in the Hindu society, and there should be a scholarly discussion on the British. Like, I know people use Nicholas Dirks, and a lot of his material, but then have they read the critique of Nicholas Dirks too? They should read both sides. Is all I'm saying.
there's also this. So there's a book called by Susan Bailey. There's a book on where she actually traces the whole idea of what they call the increase of caste, the caste consciousness to the Mughals. And we don't need to get into this issue today. But as you mentioned on Kushal, no one's denying that discrimination did not exist, right? We don't deny that. Historically speaking,
I have met enough people who
no. Yeah, I can only speak on what we're talking about, right? Our position has been very clear. No one's denying history. No one's saying that discrimination did not exist. But as you mentioned, it is not a unique factor of Hindu society, and it should not be the only thing that is about Hindu society, and also should not be the argument to destroy Hindu society.
You have my 100% support on that basic point, that it is nothing unique about Hindus. Everybody, see, if your point is at the end of the documentary they say humans suck and we should accept it, I will be like, thumbs up. My WhatsApp status is mankind is mediocre.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm 100% with you on that, but it's very important that somebody does it. I would be happy if you guys do the documentary. So I'm actually encouraging you guys. I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to have an open mind about it. And you know what? You may not please everyone. Maybe you'll not please me, but you guys should do it. And it's okay. Yeah. You guys should do it. And I would encourage that. I think one last person, again, should we take the help of Native Americans to help us with the Swastika cause? I think you have answered that too, right?
So, we are doing it.
Yeah, so that's already done. And this is just a comment. I think just refuting is not enough. We need to glorify our culture and symbols. We don't have a society that asks good questions. We just need to tell better stories. I think the documentary itself is a good start in telling good stories. So, and I think you guys should appreciate it. So I guess the person who has raised this question is Prathamesh Gosavi. So Prathamesh, they have done it, right? The documentary is about storytelling, and we can do a lot better. So before we wrap things up, Nikunj, Anuj, so Nikunj with you, and then Anuj, aap bhi aa jao. Are there any last comments you guys want to make? Please go for it.
See, we have to be assertive on the fact that Hitler never used swastika. And he always used hooked cross because where he came from, number one. Number two is it's been over 100 years since this propaganda has been going on. We cannot expect our propaganda to just disappear in a few years, right? So we have to be more adults about it, but we have to work consistently with good research, with good dialogues, with every community, whether they agree with us or not, it's okay. You have to have those dialogues. I think for people who are in India, there's 1.2 billion people there who can, if they say that this is important for us, they can really make noise at the global level. And yeah, I would encourage the Indian government to also take this up because it's an issue that impacts like more than 80% of the population in India at this point. So, those are some things. And then if you are in the US and Canada, in the Western side of the world, do support us in these educational initiatives, in this kind of like fight to not reclaim, I don't like the word reclaim, but assert our right to use our symbol and dissociate that mistake or misinformation from Hitler's hooked cross.
Anuj.
Okay, so my last point would be कि देखिए, see, एक फिल्म होती है, एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म जिसको हम बोलते हैं, उसका एक जॉब ये होता है कि बस जो फैक्ट हैं उनको उसकी तरह रखते सामने लोगों के, और उसके बाद अपनी ऑब्जर्वेशन जो है वो लोगों को बनाने थे, राइट? वो अपना कंक्लूजन बनाते हैं उस इंफॉर्मेशन के आधार पर। एक फिल्म की जॉब इतनी होती है। उसके बाद जैसे निकुंज सेट, उसके बाद की जो सबसे बड़ी लड़ाई होती है एज सिविलियंस या फिर एज एक्टिविस्ट हो जाती है, राइट? तो क्या होता है कि अब ये जिसको हम एक लड़ाई यदि कह सकते हैं, एक युद्ध हम इसको कह सकते हैं, तो ये कई एंड पे है। जैसे कि निकुंज गिव द एग्जांपल ऑफ गूगल। तो लोग क्या कर सकते हैं कि इस वर्ड का मतलब हैकन क्रॉइस का मतलब स्वास्तिक है, ये मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं गूगल पर इन अ बिग नंबर। अगर उसको मॉडिफाई करते हैं तो गूगल के पास रिपोर्ट जा रहा है, डेटा जा रहा है कि यार ये 1000 लाख 10 लाख लोग साला लग गए हैं और वो इसको मॉडिफाई कर रहे हैं, तो देयर इज समथिंग, राइट? तो उसके पास वो एक इंफॉर्मेशन पहुंचती है। वो न्यूज भी बना सकते हो आप लोग, हम अपने चैनल्स के थ्रू बना सकते हैं। दूसरी चीज, देयर शुड बी सम पेटिशंस होने चाहिए, 10 लाख साइन, 20 लाख, 50 लाख, 1 करोड़ साइन, इस टाइप से। उसके बाद मुझे लगता है कि जैसे देर आर सम इम्प्रूवमेंट्स, बिकॉज पहले तो ये इशू सुनने को नहीं मिलता था, बट देर आर सम इम्प्रूवमेंट्स लाइक विक्टोरिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया में हुआ है, कैलिफोर्निया में कुछ एटलीस्ट चिंगारी तो निकली है, अदरवाइज तो इसको स्वास्तिका इज अ हेट सिंबल कह रहे हैं, एटलीस्ट वो हाकन क्रॉइस वर्ड लाए हैं। अभी उसमें एज निकुन सजेस्टेड उसमें कुछ ऐड कराना है, बट एटलीस्ट कहीं ना कहीं उसको हम स्टार्ट बोल सकते हैं। देन कनाडा की पार्लियामेंट में मिस्टर आर्या रेज दिस इशू, सो कुछ चिंगारियां निकल रही हैं। अभी इस इशू को यदि हम और थोड़ा सा हवा देंगे और थोड़ा सा पुश करेंगे, और इवन फॉर एग्जांपल इफ दिस डॉक्यूमेंट्री गोज वायरल इन द वेस्टर्न ऑडियंस मान लीजिए, तो मैसेज विल बी लाउड एंड क्लियर, लोगों तक ये मैसेज पहुंचेगा। अभी तो उनके लिए शॉकिंग है बहुत ज्यादा, तो वो जब शॉक फैक्टर होता है ना, तो वो शेयरेबिलिटी भी बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है, किसी के दिमाग में आएगा वो साला ये क्या है, तो वो उसके बाद वो शेयर करता है उस चीज को। तो वेस्टर्न लोगों के पास फिल्म के थ्रू, और जो एक्टिविस्ट हैं जैसे कोहना की टीम है और लोग हैं उनके थ्रू, जो लॉ मेकर्स हैं उन तक ये बात पहुंचनी चाहिए। वंस अगर हम इसको कहीं ना कहीं लॉज में चेंज करा पाए, तो धीरे धीरे ये चीज जो होगी वो कल को स्कूल करिकुलम में पार्ट बन सकती है, बच्चों की स्कूल टेक्स्ट बुक में पार्ट बन सकती है। और फॉर एग्जांपल नैरेटिव्स जो है वो वेस्ट बना रहा है, अमेरिका से नैरेटिव्स बनते हैं, ये बात सच है। तो वहां पर फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हम कुछ चेंज ला पाते हैं स्कूल टेक्स्ट बुक्स में, या तो हमारे यहाँ पे भी आएगा। 9th की टेक्स्ट बुक में हम पढ़ रहे हैं आज की डेट में भी दैट हिटलर यूज्ड स्वास्तिका। तो ये एक थोड़ा टाइम टाइम लगेगा इस पूरी चीज में, और ये काफी मल्टी डायरेक्शनल जिसको हम कह सकते हैं फाइट है, और काफी सारे एंड्स हैं इसके, और इसमें सिविलियंस को भी पार्ट लेना पड़ेगा, एक्टिविस्ट भी होंगे इसमें, और पेटिशंस भी डालनी पड़ेंगी, और लॉ मेकर्स को भी थोड़ा सा मजबूर करना पड़ेगा। काफी सारे अभी डायस्पोरा हैज आई थिंक दैट देयर इज तुलसी कबर्ड, देयर इज another lady I read about her, some Rajkumar, her name is
Jennifer Rajkumar.
Jennifer Rajkumar. So इस टाइप के लोग जो हैं उनका यूज करना पड़ेगा, लॉ मेकर्स। सो दीज थिंग्स कैन हैपन, बट देयर टेक सम टाइम। थोड़ा कुछ होने लगा है, थोड़ी थोड़ी आवाजें सुनाई देने लगी हैं, बट थोड़ा समय लगेगा। बट सबको मिलके ही करना पड़ेगा, पुश जो है, दबाव जो है वो सबको मिलके बनाना पड़ेगा।
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and I can tell you, I've been here now for almost 2 months. I've met enough people now, and I've realized that you may be surprised how many people of Indian origin actually create problems for India. I can't say 99.99% of the things, and when I say people of Indian origin, I'm not talking about average people. I'm talking about lawmakers, people
Oh my
in
God.
policy. Yeah, so yeah, you have no idea how hard, even most people don't know how hard it was for Chandra Arya to even speak about that on the floor of the House. Some of us who are privy to these conversations know how much that man had to struggle to even put this on the floor of the House. So yeah, it's not easy. And even when you put it on the floor of the House, you are people of Indian origin actively working to sabotage things inside the United States of America. I don't need to take names of senators and other people who of Indian origin who actually work on bills and documents and proposals that are anti-Hindu. I don't care if they're anti-India, they're American first and Canadian first. I will handle them as an Indian in my own way. But when they're anti-Hindu, then shit hits the roof.
Yeah.
And then there is the evergreen Khalistani caucuses over here. The Khalistanis work actively against many things, and but I'm not even talking about the Khalistanis. I'm talking about Hindu lawmakers trying to actively sabotage Hindu things. I will not take names because kya bole abhi, be beyond the point naam nahi lena chahiye. So but I appreciate this effort that has been made by Anuj and by folks at Kona. I enjoyed the documentary. I recommend each and every one of you to watch it. And especially, look, I don't know why, but I'm one of those weird content creators who has a following in the diaspora, disproportionate following in the diaspora. So I know all of you watch me. I want you to watch this documentary, especially if you're in the diaspora. I want you to share it with your friends. If possible, make them watch a few snippets of it. If possible, I know 45 minutes shy, people may not give it to you, but they can watch snippets of it. whenever you talk about this subject, be less emotional, use less WhatsApp University, use more proper points, be more articulate. Look, and you might be like, कुशल भाई तुम गाली देते हो. नहीं, मगर मैं साथ में बहुत सारी चीजें जो यहाँ पे भी करता हूँ, जिसके लिए मैं गाली दे सकता हूँ. So try and understand, my galis come with a lot of book reading. I abuse them and then I throw 3 books at them. That's the whole point. You just abuse them. You never throw the books at them. So please do both. So try and build that. So I wish you both, Anuj and Nikunj, nothing but the best of luck. And
Thank
once
you.
again, it is not about whether I agree with everything you guys say, but I am very clear in my head on one thing. They attack Hindus, I'm with you.
Yep.
That's all I care about. If they attack Hindus, then I'm one. We will
That's all that
have our
matters.
we will have
Of
our
course.
minor squibbles, which is why, I mean, I've had disagreements with Kona in the past too, but whenever
Of course.
it came about the Hindu community, Kona called me. They had disagreements with me also, right? But they reached out to me. In fact, they reached out to me for the maximum number of talks. So credit to Kona. So support them too. Go out there, support Kona. If you are in the North American region, go and support them, and go and subscribe to Anuj's channel. I mean, he has way more subscribers than me. I don't need to say that, but normally I end up with an outro video. Today I'm not going to do that. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys with the trailer of the documentary. Anuj, copyright strike nahi kar dena mere ko.
No.
So सबसे बड़ी problem तो copyright strike की है. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the trailer of the documentary itself. So you guys can watch this, and I'll leave you guys. Please support the podcast, subscribe to my channel, like the video. You know the drill. You can become a member on YouTube, Patreon, and I'll leave you guys with the trailer of the documentary. Here you go.
Answer is hidden behind 2,000 years of history.
Nazi Germany was not the only country using this symbol.
Hitler used to describe the work of his party as God's work.
Max Mueller was angry with the use of the word swastika.
Was Hitler so influenced by India and Hindu tradition? History was changed.
And the dove is replaced by an eagle. In the real sense, this struggle is between Jesus Christ and Marxism.
Some argue that Hitler was against Christianity,
Pope ignored her even after reading her letter.
was even brought to limelight by the media of his enemy nations at that time.
Whose origin is lost in the savagery surrounding the swastika.
What does Hitler mean by creative work?
Das bedeutet nicht, dass es Swastika.
This was the biggest treason of the 20th century.
How could the swastika be banned or considered a symbol of hate?
Still colonized by the Britishers. 1907,
1877.
In 1851. In the 1798
Thank you.